This is the Footbrawl Podcast with your hosts, Tyler, Andy, and Boyer.
Boyer, eat a chip. Welcome back to Mantasy Footbrawl Podcast, presented by all three of your performance-enhancing dads. What's happening, fellas?
Not a lot. How you been?
Good. Boy, you feeling good this week?
I'm feeling something this week.
Ready to go? He wasn't even sick last week. He had
Just take a vacation day.
vacation day.
Yeah, I got that company PTO. I got to use that before the end of the year.
That's right. He was having boob milk last week. Had to get off of here.
Boy, did you watch the podcast last week?
I did.
Did you?
For real. Put it on during work and blew off work for it.
Attaboy. All right, I support that.
That's dedication. All right.
Something not to work.
All right. Andy, run us through how our picks were last week. You can feel free to let everybody know how Jeremy and Charlie and Paul did as well if you'd like.
All right. So me, Boyer, and our guest, not really guest, Paul, 6 for 6. Good work, fellers. Ty was the only moron to pick Colin to beat me. That didn't happen.
And Tyler was a moron to pick Jeremy. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I don't know what you and Charlie were smoking picking Jeremy. Even before the Booby Miles trade. No, I mean, it was a 60-point gap.
Yeah, but I didn't think I was going to put up 118 this week.
I didn't think you were going to put up 118 points this week either. I didn't think you needed 118 points. You needed like 75.
Oh.
And then Charlie picked Paul to beat Robbie, which didn't happen. He was the only one that picked that. So 4 for Ty, 4 for Charlie, 6 for me and Boyer and Paul. Season standings: Boyer at 31, me at 29, Ty at 25.
Just falling behind.
Just right where I want you.
Tyler at 25 is still better than Paul and Charlie at 6 and 4.
Not wrong.
Percentage-wise, we won't talk about, but anyway. All right, so let's jump into the trades from this last week. We had a nice little trade week happen.
Yeah, buddy.
Not only was it trade day yesterday, but trade week was last week. So we talked about Miles Sanders for David Montgomery last week on the podcast.
That was a live trade.
After that, Colin got $1 draft dollar, 2 fab and sexual favors, and then Jeremy got Wan'Dale Robinson. How do you guys feel about that one? Pretty. It is what it is. Did you guys like the Wan'Dale side?
I was very surprised that Jeremy had to give a draft dollar to get Wan'Dale. I don't believe Wan'Dale's keepable. I'm searching for it right now, but if he's not keepable, I don't understand. Yeah, not keepable. So I don't understand.
It's a hope to keepable his clothes on.
I guess, but I don't like. Jeremy doesn't need to be throwing draft cash at anybody in his current position. $1 is $1. It's not the end of the world, but if you're gonna pay $1 for Wan'Dale, why? I don't get it. I think throw 6 fab at him. If Colin was gonna drop him, fine, but this is a hope and a prayer and spending money that you don't need to spend.
So for me, my only thought is Jeremy's getting Wan'Dale, hoping that he goes off a couple games and he can move him again for maybe $2 draft dollars or whatever, or trying to double up. But I don't know. It is what I think. Wan'Dale could be okay, but I don't know.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I just don't feel like he was worth draft cash at this point in the season,
especially where Jeremy's at. So,
yeah.
All right, Boyer, anything on that one?
Nope, not anything.
Right, I want you to start on this next one for me.
Okay.
This is
historic.
Great historic 3-way trade. Andy gave up Gerald Everett to get Eno Benjamin. Fryer gave up 5 fab to get Gerald Everett. And then I got 5 fab to give up Eno Benjamin. what do you got?
That was a trade, I guess. That was
A three-way
something.
trade.
A three-way trade. That was a three-way trade.
Yeah, call
The
what it
most boring
is.
three-way trade it could possibly be. But I mean, you guys were trying to fill little holes and bye weeks and all that stuff, and try and get something for some players that you're probably going to end up like dropping whatever. So, like, it kind of made sense for everybody. Um, I think did Eno have a bunch of points this week?
He didn't do great.
Yeah, so then it ended up working out okay because it kind of would have sucked for if ended up actually like doing something like really really good, just because then it would have looked relatively lopsided just from the first week. But I understand where everybody
All
was
right.
coming from. Friars.
All right, we're done with the three-way trade. Andy, give me a rundown on this. Boyer gives $1 draft dollar and 23, $2 draft dollars and 24 for 40 fab.
Yeah, that's a pretty good exchange rate that Boyer got there. Historically, fab has been about $1 draft dollar per 10 fab, depending on where the current situation sits. It's kind of ebbed and flowed. Sometimes you get a little bit more, but only giving up $1 draft dollar next year and then 2 in 24 to get 40 fab. I gotta imagine that Boyer's going for Rondale Moore, because he's a dollar keeper and he's been getting volume lately. And I don't see anybody else out there that, I know Boyer's low on fab, so maybe this is just covering his ass for the rest of the season. But usually you don't give up $3 draft dollars unless you've got somebody in mind. So that's how I see that. I'm not a big Rondale Moore guy if that's what the play is, but the exchange rate's pretty good. One next year and 2 the year after that, which hold a little bit less value, and getting 40 fab is good. So
So
good
then
work.
Boyer also traded Jeremy $1 draft dollar and 23 and $1 draft dollar and 24 to get 18 fab. Boyer's all about his fab, blowing his draft dollars.
Yeah.
We'll see how it plays out. Bold strategy. So I just with all the fab trading Boyer's doing, I wanted to throw it out there, see what our thoughts were.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Boyer,
I
I'd
had-
ask you.
Yeah, I had like 17 fab going left, and I figured if I'm going to be pushing for playoffs and championship, then it would be nice to have something, so that way I could cover injuries or buys or whatever it is that needs going forward. So I don't necessarily have anybody. I have a couple guys in mind that I would like to have an ad, but overall, it's nothing like I'm spending 70 fab or whatever I have now for one player. It's more to go get a couple guys that I do want, and then to have a little extra splash around here in the next few weeks if I need to. The rate with Colin, he had 99 fab, and he's clearly in more of a sell mode. And I said, hey, the going rate's 1 for 10. Generally, what happens when you have 99 fab is you don't use it, and then right before the trade deadline, someone gives you $1 for your remaining 50 or 70 fab or whatever it is. So here's a rate that's better than that, but obviously not 1 for 10. And he said that he was like, that's fair enough. I get rid of some fab, and I don't have to sell it all for $1 later. So that's kind of how that rate ended up working out. Jeremy was a little bit tougher, but that's because he only had 18 fab left. So there's a chance that he could have used that to try and not be naked. So it made sense to me.
Okay. All right. Well, let's move off of the fab. Jeremy gave duo Adam Thielen. And Jeremy got back $2 draft dollars and 7 fab. I know that Thielen's not been great this year, but I don't feel like he's been awful either. And with the situation that the duo was, I guess duo had, well, maybe has Keenan Allen coming back, but they've been struggling at wide receiver. I think it was a good move for the duo to go get him. And I guess for Jeremy to get $2 draft dollars out of Thielen is solid. I don't know how much he would have gotten if he comes off a big game, but really Thielen's not been doing much. So getting 2+ draft dollars out of it. I think it's a good deal both ways. I guess I don't know. I guess I could see Thielen going either way, a little an extra draft dollar higher or just busting out too. So I guess get what you can while you're selling.
Yeah, Duo had been starting Alec Pierce off and on, so Thielen I think is a step up week to week in terms of floor and touchdown upside. So it made sense.
Thielen only has 2 touchdowns this year, which is interesting to see if that's something that continues or not. And now with Hawkinson, who knows if they view Thielen as the number 2 option or if they are going to end up moving that to Hawk.
The Vikings have always used a tight end in the red zone, and you've even seen it with Irv Smith and Munt. They've both gotten a couple touchdown red zone targets. So I would be surprised if Adam Thielen stays the number 1 red zone target with Hawkinson there. So we'll kind of see how that plays out. Next trade. This was a pretty solid trade. Charlie gets Leonard Fournette and Rondale Moore, and then Robbie gets CeeDee Lamb and AJ Dillon. What do you guys think on that one?
Where you want to take it?
Yeah, we've been harping on Robbie for his wide receivers all year.
And last year.
And last year, right. But CeeDee Lamb with Dak coming back, I think is a good get for him. He ended up giving up Leonard Fournette, which I think he hasn't been super efficient on the ground, but he has actually been getting a lot of catches, I think, out of the backfield to still give him some solid value. And really at any point in time, a Tom Brady led team could turn it on and figure it out. And I think Leonard Fournette will be fine. But there's definitely 2 players that I kind of view in a similar way as far as there's question marks. They're solid. They're going to give you a decent floor, but upgrades over what they had before position wise. So as far as like the big pieces there goes, it makes sense to me that both of them wanted to flop that over.
Yeah, well, and like we've talked about with Robbie's team, he has Kenneth Walker, Najee Harris, Saquon Barkley. He had Leonard Fournette. I know Najee Harris hasn't been great, but Leonard
He's still a decent flex option.
Right. Leonard Fournette's been okay. I mean, he's not been a world beater, so move him to get yourself a stud wide receiver and still sit on 3 running backs. I'm good with that.
Yeah, I mean the whole trade hinges on what Najee can do, because Leonard Fournette is currently in total points RB 11, and Najee's RB 28. He's averaging a hair shy of 8 points a game. Not getting it done for you. As a flex, it's fine, but like Robbie's building out his team to contend at this point, and losing Fournette to get CeeDee, it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, unless Najee can be closer to what he was last year. If he continues doing what he's doing, then I don't feel like Robbie really gained any ground here, which he didn't have to give up any draft cash to do it. So if Najee pulls it through, then it was a great trade. Otherwise, nothing changed.
Right. Well, in theory, Charlie turns around and just drops Rondale Moore. Is that where he picked up who did he end up picking up? Oh, he didn't drop Rondale, did he? I thought he dropped Rondale. Never mind.
Oh yeah, Rondale is a free agent.
He picked up Van Jefferson.
Oh, good choice, Charlie.
Well, that's what I was going to look at. I was like, in theory, that
Rondale only had 2 targets, not this past week, but the one before when Hopkins came back. So I can see being concerned by that. But then he ended up getting 90 yards and I think a touchdown this week. So that one hurts, but we'll see.
Yep. So.
All right, what else we got?
All right. Colin trades the duo Jalen Waddle for 7 draft dollars.
I think it's a great trade. I think Waddle could have gone for more than that. Waddle was kept this year, so no keeper value going into next year because we can only keep him for one. But $7 for a guy who's doing really well on an offense that's really moving. I mean, he's had some down weeks, but those were the weeks that Tua was getting an MRI every day. So I think moving forward, assuming that Tua stays healthy, this is a really high-powered offense, and getting a wide receiver in a high-powered offense, especially one that's getting the bulk of the red zone looks for only $7 is pretty damn good. We'll see later Boyer paid the same for Kittle. I would much rather have Waddle, even with the position scarcity, than Kittle if I'm paying $7 next year. So
Yeah, I was actually slightly disappointed because I had reached out to a whole bunch of teams about wide receivers, and I literally probably half hour, 45 minutes before this trade goes, I post in the group chat, hey, if you're selling wide receivers or running backs, hit me up. And then this trade goes through, and I was
how come you don't want my wide receivers?
I haven't looked.
I got a lot.
Well, they're not one.
Hey, don't be mean.
Well, you're in the playoff hunt, so I didn't want to be trying to get you to sell off.
I can share.
Oh, can you? Okay, that would be very nice.
But yeah, I think $7 for Waddle's a good price. I think he could have gone for 8, 9, 10 range. But
yep. All right. Boyer, anything with that, or you think that's pretty good?
No, I thought Waddle could have gone for like 10. So I was a little shocked to see he went for 7. And as far as value goes, we can talk like him versus Kittle later. But yeah, I agree that should have been higher. And I thought it was a great trade as far as value goes. Colin could have definitely gotten a couple more.
Yeah, but the duos in the hunt, they needed somebody, so that definitely worked out for them.
Yeah, I would have been interested if I didn't already have Tyreek, but it is what
Colin.
it is.
Well, I would have been interested too if I had gotten a text or anything. It's fine. It's fine. Fine.
It's fine. It's fine.
I got my eyes on other wide receivers. I've been talking to everybody else in the league except for Andy. Next trade. Walker trades Jeremy. $7 draft dollars in 23, $5 draft dollars in 24, Kyle Pitts and Tyler Lockett to get Mark Andrews and Romeo Doubs. I think it was a lot. Giving up Lockett, which I don't like. Lockett's been putting up some good weeks. Giving up Kyle Pitts is I didn't care about, and I still really don't care about because I don't like that Atlanta offense. But ask Andy; he'll tell you that you start Pitts because Andy's in love with him.
Tight end sucks. This is why Boyer had to pay $7 for Kittle. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Right. But he gave up 7 and 23, 5 and 24, plus 2 players that could be halfway decent. I mean, you definitely got the upgrade with Mark Andrews. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Dobbs is a bye week filler. If you need him, I guess. So this is all about Andrews, and Andrews is absolutely worth it. But the knee injury and the most recent shoulder injury, which coach said isn't a huge issue, but he didn't play the rest of the game. Like both of those are a little bit concerning to me. So I was in the running. I was supposed to. I offered 10 this year, or I guess 10 next year, and then 5 in 24. And I couldn't match the Lockett and Pitts combo there, or whatever the value would have been of me driving up my draft dollars to match that. So it didn't work out. But as long as Andrews is healthy, it makes sense. I'm a little bit concerned with that. My original offer 3 weeks ago to Jeremy was a lot higher because not only would I have had him for 3 weeks, but he was super healthy and he was playing awesome at the time.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the offer range a couple weeks ago when Jeremy kicked these combos off before he said he was going to hold tight for a bit.
I was offering him, I believe, 12 Fab, Tunyon, and Etienne, and he says I was one of the top two. Which value I feel like, especially now that Etienne's really good, but maybe we'll just say back then Etienne could have been sold for 4 or 5. So we're talking like 18 to 20 draft dollars, which is just under Kelsey, which kind of makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Paul, I think, was in the running at the time, and
Duo was offering,
Duo was in the
Walker
run.
was offering.
Yeah. So they had a bunch of offers, and they could have driven up the price. You could have driven up the price more if he had done it 3 weeks ago, but he opted to
Sure.
hold. And I get it. You're trying to not, maybe make a push if you can, or at least, not be naked or whatever. But he lost some value with that, especially with Andrews being a little hurt. There was early this morning, there's the insider information. I was told that the leader was Paul at one point. He was offering, this is astronomical to me. I think it was 12 next year, 10 the next year, and Algier. And then he opted to back out. And then I got
Smart.
the text back. It was like, hey, is your 10 and 5 still good? And I was like, yeah, it's still good. And he was like, okay, it's between you and Walker. And he goes, I'm going Walker because of the players. And I was like, yeah, I can't touch those players. So you do you. So
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the one good thing is Walker's not playing Lockett unless it's a bye week and he needs him.
Right.
So I mean that's the one benefit to giving up Lockett with the big play potential is you don't need him because he's got so many good wide receivers.
Yeah. I think this was a hell of a haul for Jeremy. 7 and 5 in draft cash is pretty damn good. Kyle Pitts with Andrew's current injury situation being, he's probably fine, but it's not ideal. It's not somebody that I was looking to give up a good piece, and I'm just ignoring Lockett because he's a bench player on most teams that aren't Jeremy's. But $12 plus a good piece to get a guy who's had some issues these last couple of weeks. Not ideal. Walker's got Taysom Hill, but you don't want to have to give up all this stuff and then start Taysom Hill week to week. And then on Jeremy's side, $12 plus Pitts. I know you guys don't like Pitts, and that's fine. I think that's justified at this point, but there's certainly a world where Pitts scores a touchdown or gets 75 yards in the next 2 weeks, and then Jeremy can go trade him for the same $7 that Kittle just got traded for, and then he gets $19 out of busted up Mark Andrews. That's not that far off from what he was getting offers for 3 weeks ago, and Jeremy got to have Andrews for 3 weeks and Pitts for 2 or 3 weeks of decent tight end production.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn good.
I was going to say the same thing where if Pitts goes off another week or two, he can very well turn around and sell him as well, which makes it all the more worth it.
For sure.
Yeah, it seems like after Pitts missed that week, they've been using him more as the way they should and not putting him as an inline blocker, which makes sense. So I definitely see a world where that happens. I don't necessarily think it will.
Sure.
At the best, this helps. Like adding Pitts and adding Lockett will help Jeremy hopefully not be in the bottom of the league. That's the worst. That's the baseline, and that's a good baseline to have. Get some players who can keep you from the bottom while adding that draft capital on top. So I think it was an excellent trade for Jeremy. And I mean, if Andrews is healthy, it'll be great for Walker because then his team is just going to be. I mean, there's no holes left on his roster really.
True.
Yep. All right.
Hey, fun fact, not in True False this week. Jeremy and Fryer both have not cracked 80 points the last 5 weeks in a row.
Oof.
So
I knew that about Fryer.
I knew that about Fryer too. I just went back to check Jeremy's, and it is equally bad.
That's fair. All right. So let's go down to Walker sends $2.24 and Melvin Gordon to get CEH off of Jeremy. So Jeremy picks up another $2.24 and Melvin Gordon moves CEH. Boy, what do you got on that one?
I don't know. I'd have to go look and see what Melvin Gordon did last week. But if I remember right, he got the bulk of the carries again. I know Murray's in there and Mike Boone's there, and did they just trade for another guy or something? I don't
They
know.
just
Yeah,
they
they
So
just
just
got
brought
Chase
in,
Edmonds.
yeah.
Edmund. So like it's definitely worrisome as far as Melvin Gordon goes, but it's not like CH isn't trying to fend off the running backs on his depth chart too. So
It's fine because Jeremy has Melvin Gordon and Chase Edmonds now.
I can't believe Jeremy still has Chase Edmonds. Blows my mind.
He's holding just to be sure. But
Yes.
as far as this goes, like I kind of get where Walker's coming from. I don't think I would have done it. I would have just held on to Melvin and see what happens because I think that him and CH are relatively the same. Maybe CH has a little bit higher ceiling, but I mean Pacheco's right there. They still have Rojo. You never know if a couple. I mean, they've got like 4 running backs
McKinnon,
there, and yeah, McKinnon. Like
the
at
one
any
that's
point in
actually getting the
time,
work.
Yeah,
at any
Ronald Jones
point in
has a good
time,
plan.
H could just keep on losing work more and more to all these other running backs. So I
Right.
don't really get it, but slightly higher ceiling, $2, whatever.
I actually like Melvin Gordon. I don't care about this Chase Edmonds thing's coming over. I think Gordon's still going to be the starter. I think Gordon's still going to. I mean, yes, he may not have a high ceiling, but if the dude can get
The
10 carries,
CEH?
right? I'm not saying he has a high ceiling either, but Melvin Gordon, for Jeremy to bring in Melvin Gordon plus 2 draft dollars for CEH, I think was a good take for Jeremy. He needs the draft dollars. CEH and Gordon can pretty much be on the same playing field at this point.
Yep, I agree.
So
CEH,
maybe it's a slight downgrade, but plus $2, take it.
for sure. I think CEH and Melvin Gordon are arguably very similar. CEH has a little bit more touchdown upside, but I mean, CEH has cracked double-digit carries only once this year. He's only got 19 targets, so it's not like he's making up the volume on the other side. But he does have 3 touchdowns on the ground, 3 through the air. So that's your difference.
Those were all early too, though.
Yeah, that's accurate. Let's see. 5 of the 6 were week 4 or before. And then he had a touchdown against the Niners, but he only had 6 carries in that game where they scored 44 points and were winning comfortably the whole time. Pacheco had 8. So
right.
I don't think that CEH has a ton of value. I'm not jazzed about Melvin Gordon either, but if you can get $2, get $2.
All right. So let's move Boyerson's Tanyan and 7 draft dollars to Colin for George Kittle. We've already kind of talked about this. 7 draft dollars might have been a little high, might be right on the money, and then which just made Waddle look low. Kittle has been getting back involved with the offense more with the Niners, which makes 7 feel about right. 3 of the last couple of weeks when Kittle was doing nothing, I would say 7 was way too high. But I think the Niners are pushing to get Kittle back involved. So I don't think it's a bad buy. Boyer needed to solidify that tight end situation where he was playing Dawson Knox or Tunyon or drop Taysom Hill and all this other situation where he was just having a carousel of tight ends. This helps solidify that, and I think it does what Boyer needs. It did what Colin needed, and it's a fine trade.
Yeah, I don't know. 7 feels a little high. Kittle's had 3 good games in a row with either 80 yards or a touchdown or both. And he's been healthy of late. So, it might be right, but Kittle's one that I worry about injury a little bit. And tight end's a wasteland this year. You're really feeling it if you don't have Kelsey or when he's healthy Andrews. You're feeling it. It's just like 2 years ago. So if Kittle can be that third guy, then he's worth every bit of the $7. If these last couple weeks of getting his first and second touchdown of the year are a flash in the pan, and he's going to go back to 45 yards and not often getting a touchdown, then that's going to hurt. So it's hard to know just on the last couple of weeks, but we'll see.
Yep. Boyer, any insight from you or?
Yeah, I really, really, really wanted to offer 4. That's what felt right to me. And I was like, there's no way. So I offered 6. And I was like, that's an overpay, but I needed tight ends. And then he wanted 8. And I was like, you sold Waddle for 7. I was like, I
That's a
didn't do an
good
8. And
counterpoint.
I was like, I'll just meet you in the middle. We'll do 7, just get it done and like move forward. And he was like, deal. And I was like, okay. And I was like, Jesus, like Waddle for 7 and then Kittle for 7. That feels stupid. But I am banking on Kittle those last 3 games. He's tight end 12 right now, but that's with him not playing in the first 2 games and only getting 20 some yards or whatever in the next 3. And then since then, like all of his points this year pretty much come in the last 3 weeks. So I'm hoping that keeps up. He's on a bye this week, so I don't even get to use him, but that's okay because Andy's struggling without Chubb. So I'm hoping that he could just be a set and forget, and I can stop me holding 2 tight ends on my roster for the remainder of the year.
Yep. All right. Well, that's the end of the trades. So that was a lot of them from last week. We covered them. Let's keep them going. But we're gonna hit our next favorite segment. Ha! What you drinking?
Mine's almost gone because we talked a lot about a lot of trades, but it was an amaretto sour because I still have some amaretto left.
Still on my church beer.
Attaboy.
And for us smart people, we double up so that we don't run out.
I'm drinking beer.
I figured that was cough syrup.
It's root beer.
It's coffee. It's coffee to keep them awake.
Right. It's root beer spiked with NyQuil. So after this, I'm out.
You don't need NyQuil for that.
I mean, I'm out. Like you won't see me for 3 days.
All right, Boyer.
Uh,
Do me a favor and take us into week 9 matchups.
Do we want to hit true false real quick or skip it because we did so many trades?
I like true false. Let's do it.
All right, let's do it.
All right, real quick. Justin Fields has the most QB points over the last 4 weeks. True or false?
I'm gonna go with false, but I was just close.
All right,
he's been top 5 the last 3.
One guy ahead of him, and I'm cheating a little bit because like Josh Allen missed a game because of the bye and all of that. But total points last 4 weeks, one guy has more points than Justin Fields. Who is it?
Well, Mahomes had a bye too.
Hurts.
Eagles had a bye as well.
Ah, shoot.
Joe Burrow, 102 points for Burrow, 84 for Fields.
That helps when Burrow has like a 50-point game or something like that.
Yeah, he had a big one. Okay, number 2, Tyreek Hill has only scored a touchdown in 1 of his 8 games so far. True or false? Where owns Tyreek Hill?
False. So he scored multiple touchdowns in 1 game, but I think he scored at least one other game. Maybe even this week.
Boyer,
Ty's looking it up.
I have no idea.
Tyreek Hill leads the league by a wide margin in yards. He's on pace to get over 2,000 receiving yards so far. He has 2 touchdowns, and they both happened in week 2.
Look at that.
All right. This one, over the last 4 weeks, Ramondre Stevenson is a top 5 running back. True or false?
I'll say true.
Over the last how many weeks?
4.
He's the top how many running back?
Top 5.
Sure.
He's not. He's number 7 in total points. If you look at average points to make it a little more fair, he's all the way down to number 10. But he has been doing well. 7's nothing to sneeze at. So thanks for letting me get those in quick.
I figured he maybe had one big game that pushed him over.
Yeah, Kamara and Henry are all scoring points again. So the duo's team looks good, and Stevenson doesn't look as pretty.
Well, it doesn't look as pretty when they're putting up 3 touchdowns each.
Truth.
But yeah, I mean, over the last 4 weeks, he did 17, 21, 15, and 14.
He's doing well.
You take that all day though. So, all right, now Boyer. Now it's your turn.
What matchup do you want me to roll with?
The one at the top of Ty's list.
Me versus Walker. It's always the top of my list.
Tyler's matchup's always the top.
Okay.
And since I host, I always get to go first.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure is that we were still doing that. All right. This should be a good matchup. To me, probably matchup of the week, maybe the championship. Let's see. On Walker's side, nobody else is playing. Everyone's on bye, or it's Taysom Hill versus Mark Andrews, which you're playing Mark Andrews, assuming he's healthy. Dobbs, yeah, nope, nothing on Walker's side that I can see.
Can we talk about Daryl Henderson? Is he going to find somebody to replace Daryl Henderson?
I'm assuming at some point he seems to be a buyer right now. But the problem is that with Ezekiel Elliott and Pollard like on the same team, both having the bye, he's got to play him. He normally doesn't have to play him by any means.
Right.
But like we'll see, I guess. I mean, I know is that Collins got some running backs still out there that he could probably go and buy and see if he can't plug and play. But then he'd just have a ridiculous amount of options any week running back, and that would be a headache. I mean, you
could just get rid of Mark Ingram and it would be fine. You could put a running back in that spot and it would be okay.
Well, I guess I'm just saying is that like right now, already choosing between Elliott, Pollard, and then Josh Jacobs. Like, are you playing? You got to play all three of those guys. Hopkins is playing really well, and then so like it kind of becomes a who do you start and who do you sit, and you kick yourself if you end up sitting Jacobs or if you end up sitting Hopkins and they end up doing really well. So
yeah. No, I
get
it.
Headache, but a headache. Ty, you're in a similar spot. You've got you've got an IR player. Good job, Ty.
Just feels
McCaffrey's on bye. That's right. McCaffrey's on bye. That's rough. Michael Thomas is questionable and has projected points. I don't know.
Dude's going to be questionable all year. He probably will be dropped at some point because that dude's fucking pissing me off.
Ayuk is on bye.
Sorry, YouTube.
Bateman's out. So you're pretty much set too, assuming you don't make any moves. And I mean, Ty, you've got a ridiculous team as far as like where your running backs normally are. Without McCaffrey though, this week it's a little rough. Granted, he doesn't have his Cowboys, so it kind of evens out. Who do you guys got?
This guy.
I am gonna go with Ty. Unless Walker makes a move for a running back. If Walker buys a running back, not just picks one up, but if he buys somebody or makes a trade for a running back, then I'm going to switch to Walker. Walker's team's been real hot.
Yeah, I think
they've got good matchups this week too.
They do. Yeah, seeing Walker projected for 102 or whatever he's sitting at, even with Henderson still in the starting lineup, that's pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ty. Singletary as his backup to McCaffrey's bye is a luxury that not everybody gets to have. And Eckler's running back one right now against Atlanta. I assume he'll be fine, score a bunch of points. Kelsey against Tennessee should score a bunch of points. There's some good matchups on Ty's end too. So I think Ty wins.
As long as Deontay Foreman stays the RB1 and they give him the bulk of the carries, I'm going to be A-okay this week. Now, if this dude gets relegated for Chubba Hubbard, I'm going to be pissed.
Walker will have a Chubba if that happens. That's for sure.
That's right. All right, Andy.
Yes, sir.
Jump us to a duo victory.
Feels generous. You don't want to talk about like it starts decisions that Jeremy has to make. His entire bench, except for Mike Gesicki, is projected for 0 points for one reason or another. Yeah, so Jeremy's gonna lose. Sorry, Jay. Duo has to decide Adam Thielen or Garrett Wilson. I'm playing Thielen against the Commandos defense instead of Wilson against Buffalo. Keenan Allen could still be hurt, but for now, I'm assuming he plays.
Yep.
I don't really think it matters who Duo plays at this point. I think
it doesn't.
I think he's got the win.
And you're playing Thielen against Washington over Garrett Wilson against Buffalo, but yes.
All right, I got Duo.
If there's an injury, you put Wilson in, and it's fine.
Sure.
Yeah, Duo's gonna win this one.
Yeah. Duo. Not close. Sorry, Jay.
All right.
2 for 2, boys.
Which actually, Walker could really use a win this week if the duo gets the easy matchup with Jeremy.
Yeah.
All right, so Colin versus Fryer, the little kid picture of the week. I hope that still happens. Colin currently has Russell Wilson on a bye, currently has no tight end and no flex in, no defense that's playing. So this is good. He's gonna put Tanyan in. He's gonna put, sorry, I gotta work through this with nobody in. Geno Smith will go in. Devin Duvernay versus
Probably not Hines.
Robert Woods.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that either.
Devin
Andy, are
Duvernay.
you? Andy, are
Duvernay.
you think? I'll say, Andy, are you thinking that Hines needs a week to acclimate and get into the playbook?
I would think so. I mean, he could do something, but I mean, he's going to Buffalo. Best case scenario for Hines is that Buffalo gets out to a big lead and he gets garbage time to just get a feel for it and get some production there. But I mean, I'm not like, they still have Singletary. They've still got Cook. They don't run the ball that often to begin with. So
And
Even
even in a good
Jets
week, I'm
defense
not
is good.
excited about Hines.
Jets defense is Jets defense is solid, and I think they're top 5 against the run. So
yeah, but even then, like James Cook hasn't gotten much work, and he's the pass catcher. Like, yeah, they bring in Nyheim Hines, and he might be better, but like that's not what Josh Allen does. So I don't see that being a big productive role, even with Hines being there. I think Hines is just a better all around option when it comes down to it. If something happens to Singletary.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, in this case this week, I'm playing Duvernay though. I agree with Andy. I think you gotta
With
give
Marquise, not Marquise, Bateman down.
Bateman down. Yeah,
That
I think
helps too.
I think you give Hines a week to get into the backfield and see what Duvernay can do. That's a rough matchup though against New Orleans. They've been a pretty stout defense so far.
So, all right. Who are you dropping here to pick up a defense? Are you dropping the Denver defense? Are you dropping the Niners defense? Or are you just dropping another player on your team?
So Denver's only got 2 double-digit games as a defense. They just traded Bradley Chubb. I think you're fine to drop them. I mean, against Tennessee off the bye and then against the Raiders, neither of those are like slam dunk matchups. The Panthers in week 12 would be the next time that you're looking to start them over the Niners, probably.
But then you get Baltimore and Kansas City after that.
Right. So I think the Broncos are pretty easily droppable at this point. I find it humorous that Colin's been holding 2 defenses and they both have the same bye. But yeah, I don't feel bad at all about dropping the Broncos right now.
All right. Going over to the other side. Fryer has Rashad White in, but he's got James Robinson on the bench. Gus Edwards, I think, is going to go to a starting spot. I mean, you're going to start Gus Edwards over the other ones if he's playing, right?
Yeah.
And then if not, are you playing Rashad White? Are you playing James Robinson?
I mean, Robinson got 5 carries in the first week and he got traded in the middle of the week. So maybe I mean, you don't feel good about any of it. And that's assuming that Connor plays, which at this point he ought to, but he has missed the last 3 weeks, so that's not nothing. Right. So it's a pretty shit spot for Fryer right now in terms of running back.
Yeah.
And Damian Harris is not who I want in my starting lineup right now either. So
right. Okay, fair enough.
Sorry, Fryer, your running backs suck.
So who's gonna win this matchup?
I got Colin. I'd have felt a lot better about it if he hadn't just sold Waddle and Kittle, although Kittle's on a bye, but you know what I mean.
I'm gonna take Fryer for the sake of, I think Lamar Jackson Mike Evans can do, because the Rams defense has not been great. I think Lamar Jackson and Mike Evans might be able to do enough. Jonathan Taylor makes me nervous. I just don't know what to do with that guy.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. I'm gonna go Fryer, but I don't feel good about this matchup either way.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Fryer. I think Jacksonville, I think, is a pretty good run defense if I remember right. I don't know what to do with Taylor either. And as bad as Fryer's running backs are, they're probably not as bad as Collins' wide receivers now. But like Olave has been good. I'm not, Devonta Smith is okay, but he's going to end up having some scrub quarterback that from waivers. So I'm
No,
going to go
he's
with
got
Fryer.
Geno. Geno will be fine
Okay, Gino will probably be okay,
against
but I don't know why.
Arizona.
Has he been starting Gino? I feel like he should have been starting Gino this entire time. Anyway, I like Lamar, Evans, Adams. I think that's enough to pull Fryer up. I don't think Collins scores a ton of points this week.
It's just an ugly matchup, so I don't.
It's not about me thinking that Fryer is that much better. It's more of like who's going to score the most least points, and I think it'll be Fryer.
Who's going to score more points is going to win the game.
The most least points. Like they both end up 50. This is like a Andy versus Fryer situation here. Like whoever, it's a race to the bottom, but then whoever loses actually wins.
There. All right. Boyer, now that you've been talking a lot, talk about Chris versus Robbie.
Chris and Robbie.
Be the next matchup. They got players and things.
Would love for Chris to win this one because my division is a bummer. All right.
Go Robbie.
You might be getting some good news here, bud.
All right. So Chris, options, man, it's the same everywhere. Both of these benches. So everyone's screwed. Like there's no benches for either one.
It's six teams are on a bye. It's killing us this week.
Yeah, and they're good teams.
Yeah. So everyone's on a bye. I don't think that there's any changes to make. Right now, Robbie's projections look real rough. Who is he? Najee Barkley on a bye, Lamb on a bye, Amari Cooper on a bye. That's rough for Robbie. So
take the hit all at once, I guess.
Yep.
Chris has
do it.
Deontay Johnson on a bye, Jamar Chase on a bye.
No, Jamar Chase injured.
On a bye. Well, yeah, you're right. He's injured. He's out. Sorry, but he was prepared for that. Diggs. Oh my goodness. So since there's no option, like no decisions here, I'm gonna pick Chris? Question mark? Chris.
Let me ask a question.
Okay.
The only lineup decision, and I imagine you guys are going to keep it the way it is, but Pacheco or Paris Campbell?
I don't think I can confidently start Pacheco, although Paris Campbell's going against the Patriots, and he only had 2 targets in his first game with the backup
Sam
Ellinger, thank you. So he did have 43 yards on those 2 catches, which isn't nothing. And I think he had some running work too, because he had 7 points.
Must have.
So I'll leave Campbell in there. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I'm thinking like Campbell gets like what 3 to 5 targets, and Pacheco probably gets 8 or 7 to 9 touches. I don't know. That one's tough. I probably keep Campbell in, but
Pacheco does have Tennessee. Tennessee gives up a lot through the air, not as much on the ground.
Yeah, they got gashed by Saquon in week 1, but after that they haven't allowed anybody as a double-digit fantasy scorer except for Dameon Pierce, who had a receiving touchdown and managed 11 points. So it's not a good running back matchup.
All right, so keep it at Campbell, and now let's that's literally the only thing that we can talk about. So here we go. Yeah. Who's gonna win?
I'm going Chris. I think the firepower of Diggs and Dalvin Cook, and then the advantage at tight end with Zach Ertz. I'm not expecting Hawkinson to do a ton in his first week on a new team. is more than enough to cover what I expect to be a pretty big advantage at quarterback for Robbie. But maybe not with Chase being down. Maybe Cousins keeps up with Burrow this week. But I think if Robbie's going to win this one, it's going to have to be Burrow carrying him across the finish line. And I don't think he can keep up with what Chris has going for him.
I think it's gonna have to be. I think it's gonna have to be a long Mooney touchdown.
Okay.
I'm
I mean,
saying.
he's going to have to get it somewhere. That's not my first choice, but
Well, I'm not. But I'm saying Burrow has the ability to go off. I'm
Sure.
not. But like Darnell Mooney, if he can put himself in a position to get a 30, 40-yard touchdown, that's going to make a big difference.
Hey, Claypool's going to get that now.
Well, probably.
Because he's tall.
But like Myers has scored 3 touchdowns in the last 4 weeks. That's possible. Hawkinson can be fine, which is also, if Hawkinson's getting it, it's coming from Cousins on Chris's side, which helps.
Yeah, not for nothing. Ertz had double-digit targets in 4 of 6 games, and then Hopkins came back. He's only got 4 and 5 targets in those 2 games, so that hurts.
I'm going with Chris, but I think there's a possibility Robbie could win this one. But
or are you going to break the trend?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chris. I mean, he's got the studs right now. It's pretty much just it's Kenneth Walker versus I think Cousins can keep up with Burrow because Washington's defense isn't all that great either. So unless Burrow absolutely goes off, which I don't think he will. I think no Chase kind of caps his ceiling a little bit. I mean, he's got other good receivers, but it's very clear that Chase helps blow the top off of defenses, and they're missing that. So
it just helps the whole offense as a whole.
It really does, yeah. I mean, they can bring guys forward a little bit more. Higgins has good speed, Boyd has good speed, but it's not Chase speed. So I'm going to go with Chris here. I think he's got more than enough to win.
All right, Andy, take us to the brother duo Charlie versus Paul.
Charlie and Paul. All right, this is starting to feel like deja vu. So Colin and Fryer are really bad at this, but so are Charlie and Paul. Well, Charlie has number 2 quarterback Justin Fields going, which can't hurt. Also, not number 5 running back Ramondre Stevenson. Fields against Miami or Goff against Green Bay. Green Bay's defense hasn't been great, but I think Fields has been pretty hot as a fantasy quarterback. So leave Fields in. Anybody want to argue Goff?
No, and I think Miami is going to be scoring, so Fields is going to have to keep working hard all game.
Yeah. I don't see space to get Eno in here unless I guess I guess you could put him in over Josh Palmer, move Godwin up. So if I could see an argument for doing that, Palmer's fine, but if Keenan Allen's playing, he's not the best. And, even with Connor healthy, is probably going to get some touches. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd make that switch.
No, against Seattle, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, Josh Palmer hasn't been doing a ton.
Yeah. No, push Godwin up and start Benjamin. Yeah.
I think even if Connor comes back, I'm comfortable playing Eno over Palmer.
Yeah, Palmer has had 1 game at 99 yards. Otherwise, he's at a touchdown, or to get 9 plus. Otherwise, it's been 5 or under.
Right. Last week he had 12, or I guess 2 weeks ago because he didn't play last week. He had 12 targets, 9 catches, and turned it into 57 yards, no touchdown. So
yeah,
not ideal.
And you need the points. So move Godwin up, throw Benjamin in, and hope Benjamin can punch one in, get some work, split up with Connor. I get it.
Yep.
So
all right, on Paul's side, Algier or Herbert over St. Robinson.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would play Herbert.
I like Herbert, but I mean Jeff Wilson is going up against a Chicago defense that just lost their two best linebackers in the last 2 weeks. So I would consider Jeff Wilson here. I mean, I expect Mostert to get a good chunk of the work and stuff still, but I think they're going to work Jeff Wilson in, and it's a defense that is already was susceptible to the run, and now they're missing their whole second level practically. So
And Mike McDaniels knows Jeff Wilson really well too.
That's true.
yeah.
So
I
there's
think
going to be
Jeff
less of a
Wilson's
learning curve there on the new team. I'm still hesitant to start a guy when we don't really know what his role is going to be. But I'm fine with
I like the
Herbert
Jeff
or
Wilson matchup.
Algier over St.
I'm
Robinson.
playing Algier.
Yeah.
I think this is. I mean, he's got one more week before Corduroy comes back, I think, and he's been getting. I mean, I know Huntley's been getting
15
some
targets
too.
or carries ish.
Yeah, he got
15,
10, 13,
16, 14.
15, 16, 14. So I mean, he's averaging somewhere in that 13-ish range. So
My concern is just that he hasn't been terribly efficient with what he's been getting. He's been averaging like 3 yards a carry, which is not ideal. But if there's a touchdown there, he's probably going to find it. But
the volume is probably the safe bet there, though. I agree.
yeah, if it's my team, I'm playing Khalil Herbert. He's been getting plenty of volume, even though he's technically not the starter.
Yeah.
I think Miami gives up a fair amount on the ground, and he's a lot more effective than Algier. He's probably going to not have as many touches, but that's okay. And I'm not confident in what Jeff Wilson's going to do, but I would play any of these guys over St. Robinson. So get him out of your lineup.
Yeah, I'm not starting Wilson week 1. I'm cool with Herbert or Algier, but I'm playing Algier.
All right. Paul still needs a tight end, but he doesn't have one yet. So other than that, who you guys got in this one? Charlie or Paul?
I'm going to go with Paul. I mean, he's got Cup, DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders versus. I mean, if Fields has a really good game again, I guess I could see Charlie keeping up, but it's really just him and Stevenson. Maybe if Gabe Davis can have one of them, 3 touchdown games on 4 receptions or whatever. But I like more of the top end talent that Paul has, so I'm just gonna go that side.
Yeah, I agree. I'll go Paul unless Cup is out this week, which it doesn't sound like he's gonna be. But I got
yeah. That's it. That's exactly what I was gonna say. If Cup for some reason isn't playing this week, I'm taking Paul unless Cup's not playing, then I'll take Charlie.
All right.
I would love to see Charlie win this game.
You just want to see Jeremy's dong.
What? I don't need Charlie to win this game to see that.
It's true. You just have to ask nicely. Sometimes you don't even have to ask.
You just gotta get him a couple drinks here or there, and you'd be all right. Play beer pong with him.
Yeah, that's why we don't have HR in our league, because Jeremy's just whipping it out.
All right. So now we got Andy versus Boyer to finish it out.
It's getting hot in here.
Andy has Herbert, and Andy has Tua. Tua plays Chicago. Herbert plays Atlanta. Both great matchups. Andy, our first off, Boyer, who are you starting out of those two? Give Andy some advice.
Yeah, I mean, as a Bears fan, I would start Tua. That defense looked terrible last week against Dallas, and it's not getting any better. I like Herbert, but he's been struggling. Personally, I think their offensive coordinator is just the worst. I think he'll do fine against Atlanta. I don't think he can make a wrong decision here. But I would take the chance at Tua getting like 40 points on Chicago's defense, because I think that's more likely than Herbert doing that against Atlanta.
I'm leaning Tua as well, just because if Allen is hurting, they don't have Mike Williams. They're riding Darden. They're riding Palmer. Gerald Everett. those aren't names that I want to bank on. If Allen is playing, I think I leave Herbert in and take that shot. So I think a lot of that depends on
Tyreek and
Keith.
Waddle are going to make the Chicago's defense look silly.
Yeah, but the whole run game made the Chicago defense look silly last week. So
Yeah,
That's true. Everything made Chicago look silly last week, though. To be fair,
all right. But anyway,
hold
Andy,
on.
where you leaning?
I'm gonna play Herbert. The Bears defense has not allowed a 300-yard passer this year. They have not allowed 3 passing touchdowns in a game this year. They've only allowed 2 passing touchdowns twice, including, 3 weeks without allowing a passing touchdown at all. But we did get gashed by Dan Jones on the ground, so Tua's not going to do that. Tua won't do that to us. So I think Tua can have a good game against the Bears. As a Bears fan, I know that our defense is beatable and our team is embarrassing, but the Falcons are also a bad defense. They're the ones that Joe Burrow torched for almost 500 yards just a couple weeks ago. I think Herbert coming off the bye, getting Keenan Allen back. I got to start my studs. So I'm keeping Herbert in there.
I think
somebody's going to get me a 35-point week. I think it. I mean, either of them could do it, but I think I'm going to put my money behind the Herbert horse.
That's fine. All right, so let's go to Michael Carter versus Antonio Gibson.
This is what I'm with.
I think I'm actually Gibson has Minnesota. Minnesota's defense is phenomenal, but Michael Carter has the Bills, and the Bills' defense is also really good against the run. But I think with James Robinson coming in, I think he's going to get more work this week than he did last week. And I also think Gibson having the pass down work against the Vikings is going to be better than Brian Robinson going up the middle. So I think I'm leaning Gibson here, and he's been getting a lot of work. I think he's still the better back, and I think they're realizing how they need to use him now. So I'm leaning Gibson. Boyer, what do you think?
Yeah, I am too. Carter hasn't even gotten he got a lot of attempts the week after Breece Hall went down. He had 13 attempts, but last week he only had 7. They were playing from behind a little bit, but I mean they weren't so far behind.
Playing from behind this week.
Right, but my point is that they weren't playing from so far behind that they needed to just abandon the run. I think that was something that they just Michael Carter is not a big volume between the tackles guy. That's why they went out and got James Robinson. So I think that he probably scales back to maybe 8 or 9 carries, get some decent receiving looks, but I'm not really excited about it against Buffalo, especially. I do think that Washington is slowly starting to realize that with Brian Robinson eating up, a bunch of the inside carries, that Gibson is very good when he's fresh and he gets to the outside. And they've done it a few times, and I think that there's a good chance that Gibson pulls in some decent chunk yardage, maybe gets a touchdown out of something like that. I would feel more comfortable with Gibson, just based off of how I think that both running backs will be used.
Yeah, I am leaning toward Gibson as well. Barring anything changing, I will probably have him in my lineup.
Sure.
All right. Now do my receivers.
What's that?
I said, okay, now do my receivers.
Yeah, that's why I waited on this one. So Andy has McLaurin, Metcalf, Juju, Lazard, and DJ Moore. I am playing the way Metcalf played hurt last week. I think you're not sitting Metcalf.
Yeah, he's your guaranteed starter.
McLaurin against Minnesota. Minnesota definitely gives up more through the air than they do on the ground. My concern is Juju. I know he's had 2 big games the last couple weeks, but I don't know if it sticks. I mean, the one game was 5 catches, 113 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, the dude just broke it off. But Really, DJ Moore, I don't know that I can play him comfortably either, because without that 50-yard touchdown there at the very end, his week last week looks a whole lot different. I mean, he still had 100 yards.
Yeah.
Against that Atlanta defense that Andy was just talking about is bad against the pass.
I think as much as I hate to say it, I think I leave Juju in just because it's Kansas City. Like Alan Lazard with Green Bay, like, yeah, he comes back. It's definitely going to help Green Bay. They get Detroit. That's an easier matchup. But DJ Moore's had 2 good weeks too. I think I'm going to trust the offense that is Kansas City over Carolina and Green Bay at this point, though. And that's hard for me to say because I'm not a Gibson or I'm not a Juju person, but I think that's your best choice right now. Boyer?
Yeah, so I think I agree with Metcalf being number one. Since Heineke took over, McLaurin's been really solid, and I don't think that's going to change. So I think McLaurin's two. In the flex, I would probably choose if Lazard plays against Detroit. I like that matchup, but Andy might need a little bit more of a boom player there, with the way my team looks and is relatively healthy. So I think that I'd probably stick with Juju and hope that you keep getting those like 8 or 9 targets and he's able to spring something after the catch and get a touchdown. Because I'm not sure Lazard would be a solid floor play against Detroit with maybe a little bit of a bigger ceiling than what we've seen from him so far. But I think in this particular matchup, Andy should play Juju. I think if he was playing a bottom league team, just throw in Lazard out there, go get your points and take the win. But I think he needs more points than that from
Andy, where
his
you
flex.
landing?
DJ Moore. In a game
And
that
that's
in a game that I expect them to be trailing, a guy that is the number one option who's been doing better the last couple of weeks, especially since they made all of these proclamations about him being a franchise cornerstone, whatever. I will, barring any unforeseen circumstances, be playing DJ Moore over Juju in the flex.
Let me ask you a question. PJ Walker doesn't start this week. It goes to Mayfield or Darnold. Are you still starting DJ Moore?
Is that supposed to happen? No, you got my butthole puckering.
Baker Mayfield was questionably healthy for last week, and they had talked about possibly starting him.
Fuck that guy.
So
that would give me pause. That would be unforeseen circumstances. I might play Lazard in that case against the not great Lions secondary. I might leave Juju in that point because Lazard's been banged up and I don't want to get 2 or 3 quarters out of him instead of a full game. But as it stands right now, I'm leaning DJ Moore.
So I'm seeing an article from just yesterday. It says Baker Mayfield is healthy enough to play again, but former number 1 overall pick is now the backup in Carolina. Interim head coach said they're sticking with PJ Walker. So stick with DJ based off of what Andy's saying.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to look that up as well because I figured I'd try to catch any updates I could.
Since PJ Walker came in and they fired their coach, they've been force feeding DJ Moore. So I definitely get where Andy's coming on that. And it's a fine pick. I don't know if I still trust that. Just I've been burned by DJ Moore multiple times in multiple years in the past that I don't know about it. But if PJ Walker is the quarterback and he's looking his way, yeah, I mean, he could absolutely give you a monster game. He just did last week. So
let's be honest, Andy. There are 6 teams on a bye this week, a couple of really good teams, and you only have 1 guy out this week on a bye. Like, is your team just not good, or I'm just confused on why you don't have more buys?
Nick Chubb's the top running back in the league right now, and he's on a bye, and he's the reason I win games.
That is true.
So
all right,
that's pretty much all there is to it.
So let's jump to Boyer's side. Boyer doesn't have a lot of buys this week either. Don't worry. He has Tyler Boyd or Brandon Cooks.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
So you're playing Tyler Boyd because Chase is out and we're moving on, right?
Yep.
Andy, any arguments?
No, I agree.
Okay. So Boyer outside of that, got George Kittle, but he's on a bye. So you keep Dawson Knox in. Everybody else is out on a bye. So who's going to win this matchup? I'll go first since I am not one of you two. I'm going to take Boyer.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with me as well. I believe in my team. I gotta, let them know that publicly that I believe in them. But I've got good matchups. Aaron Jones, Tyreek Hill should feast against some bad defenses. Um, Team's healthy and looking good. Josh Allen should be fine against the Jets. I got me.
And when Tyreek Hill feast against Chicago and Tua's on Andy's bench, you'll like it more.
I mean, yeah, that's another thing that he could do if he really wanted to try and cancel that out. If he thought Tyreek would have a big game, but he's only got 2 touchdowns, and that was all in one game. So maybe he thinks that that's not going to be a problem.
Yeah, I'm trying to unfuck the last couple spots on my roster to make this week happen because I can't afford a loss to Boyer. If I lose to Boyer, I move to
Wild card.
1. I move to 1 and 2. No, I mean right now I'm wild card because Robbie's 3-0 in our division, and I would love to push Boyer to 0-3 in our division, because Boyer's got me in points if Robbie wins the division. And Boyer and I are tied for wild card. He's got 60 points on me right now because his team's very good. So I got to do what I can to win this matchup this week. So I'm trying to figure something out to get another piece to make this a little bit more competitive. But looking at it as it stands, I think Josh Allen kicks my ass. Like, I don't think I can keep up with Josh Allen, even though the rest of my guys have good matchups and Boyer's team's got good matchups too. So, I think we match up fairly well, except for Boyer has the best quarterback in the league and it's not close right now. So I can't keep up with that.
Damian Pierce is the only one on Boyer's lineup that is like, shit, that's a tough matchup.
Yeah.
But other than that,
he's on the Texans. That's every week is a tough matchup for them.
So, all right. With that, let's get some trades rolling again. Good luck this week on football. Let's see how our predictions go after some more trades happen this week. Other than that, we'll be back at you guys next week. We're out.